panels, noticing on how the proposition side of the house is keep talking about how under their side of the house they will create a better parenting and how parents should support their child passion and how we shouldn't force our children to have a formal education and etc. Among all the points that proposition over to you, we're here to prove to you on how the idea of forcing under our side of the house is would not be harmful, and on how formal education is the gate for you to pursuing your career in the future. And if we're able to prove to you, we believe that proposition cannot win this debate. Several responses to the proposition. First, government never really mentioned what kind of formal education that they try to define in this debate. Is it high school or like college and universities? Even if we assume that they want to talk about college only, we're here to prove to you why their arguments are so utopic and cannot stand. First, the proposition side of the house is actually keep glorifying the idea of open-minded parents, because parents are the one who have control to leading their child into the better future, right? But noticing on how they also stated that parents are those who want the best for their children, so they have to guide their children based on their experience that they have and etc. But actually, this is the reason why we oppose, right, ladies and gentlemen? At the end of the day, being parents is not about open-minded, but about how we can provide our child the better future. Notice that parents already understand how the world is and how the life career is. That's why they want to guarantee and make sure that their child is ready by giving this formal education. Even though if the proposition side of the house is said that with this formal education cannot guarantee people's career or successful, I will prove to you why people can success with formal education, because now education is not the matter of choice but the idea of obligation, which I will explain later on my arguments. Second, they explain to us on how the world already modern and so many people need creative people like content creator and etc. But actually, at the end of the day, you cannot live in that career without pursuing the formal education. Why? Because at the end of the day, you won't be able to compete with others who have this first model, which formal education. How can you be so sure that you are able to survive with just what you basically have from the very first place? This is what proposition failed to explain to us, and I will explain this point later on my arguments. Several points I want to re-clarify in this debate. I want to re-clarify about the idea of middle class parents itself. Panels, noticing on how the middle class parents means that those who are actually struggling with economical issue but still able to have this capability in supporting their children's education, right? Because they actually have quite stable economy, but not just high class economy. But meaning with this privilege, we believe that whatever our child's passion is, we should still prioritize the formal education so you are able to compete at the future, whatever your career path is. Because from the start, we never banning people to pursue what they want to be, but we're just saying that formal education should be prioritized since you have that opportunity from the very first place, right? Now moving on to my arguments. First, I'm going to bring why it is principally justified to happen, and second, I'm going to bring the idea of good parenting itself. First layer of justification. Noticing on how the characteristic of formal education is the gate for you to help you have a better future career, right? Through formal education, you will get degree which good for your CV and etc. If proposition side of the house being overconfident on how they can survive without formal education, they are wrong. Why? First, once you already have this kind of privilege to pursuing the formal education, but you choose to not take it because you're being too confident that you can survive without any degree, and at the end of the day, you're actually just going to not able to compete with other people who choose the pursuing formal education, whatever your career path is. For example, in nowadays, for you to have a job, at least you have to have a degree, right? With this characteristic, we have proof to you why now education has become an obligation, not a choice. Because in order to survive and have a good career path, you really need this validation, which you can only get from the formal education. That's why we have to acknowledge how important formal education is for applying job and etc., right? And for example, another example, to work as a career creative team, you at least need to have a degree as the proof that you are at least educated enough and have this capability to work, right? If the proposition side of the house say that they can be YouTuber or TikTok and etc., that no need to have this degree, how can we here want to ask you, how can you be so sure that you can fulfill your life with those career that we understand being content creator is something that gain unstable profit and have this kind of era. Once your era already end, people not watching you anymore, do you think that you are still able to survive without any model like degree, for example? Comparatively, on the other side of the house, we still support children to pursue their passion. But as the parents who want to make sure that my child able to survive in a long-term condition, we want to force our child to have this kind of formal education. So at least once you are not succeed in content creator career, you still have another alternative career with your model. So actually the idea of force is not harmful on the other side of the house. Besides, as a good parent, we equip our son or our child with a good model. Even if they survive without any model or formal education, I think on the other side of the house we can provide a better career stability, because without degree, at the end of the day, the child will be struggling and seeking for a job. If the proposition want to talk about being a good parents, I think that could be happen more on the other side of the house. And with my justification, we've proved to you so many points. We've proved to you so many points about on how formal education is the gate for your future career, why it is important, and how the idea of good parents can be achieved on the other side of the house. Now moving on to my second argument, I'm going to talk about the idea of good parenting. Panels, all the points that the propositions stated in is actually just showing you on how the opposite side of the house should win this debate. Logically, we agree that parents have their responsibility to guide their children, right? And how the parent is the most understand people around us, because they have already experienced the real life. We believe that parents always want the best for their child, right? Now, parents want to see their child suffering in the future, and if from the start they have the opportunity to provide their child a good living, why they want to let their child struggling at the end of the day? And this is the reason why middle class parents always want to pursue and fight for their child education with not so good economy, because they want their children have a successful and guaranteed life at the end of the day, right? Can you imagine on how parents letting their child to have their own life, pursuing what they want without any models that can guarantee that their child will not suffering, because from the start they didn't pursue any this kind of mandate formal education, which can give a lot of door for their child to pursue their career, right? And how can parents sacrificing all the opportunities, effort, and funding that already they provide from the very first place to let their child pursuing things that nobody can guarantee they can survive in a long-term situation, right? And on how the job vacancy are so blurred, because we're letting them choose their own path without even have any models. Even though parents already understand how creative industry is so progressive nowadays, how can the propositions be so sure that they can ensure that their child will be successful and will not be struggling at the end of the day? Noticing on how this industry our algorithm is very, very unstable and could change in any time. Until the end of this debate, still so proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.